If you've ever struggled with not knowing what to do after one of your submissions fails, this video is for you. We're talking about chaining submissions together in a simple way that also makes sense. And once you understand this concept, you can get pretty creative and find all sorts of chains that work really well. And oftentimes, this is kind of what it feels like to roll with a black belt that feels like they're 10 steps ahead of you. They're chaining submissions together, and this is the start. This is exactly how you begin that journey. Let's dive in. Now this first one, triangle to a double armbar, is really nice because oftentimes I see a white belt or a blue belt with their training partners trying to hit a triangle, and the training partner wedges an arm up your crotch as a shield, preventing you from hitting the triangle. Well, in this case, you have a really nice option for a double armbar. Most people know that if they get that forearm wedge in between your legs while you're trying to do a triangle, they're safe. And if they remove that wedge, they're falling straight into a triangle. So they will apply a lot of forward pressure with that wedge to ensure it stays where they want it. Now, you can use this to their advantage and create space, get two hands on it and pull it through. Or sometimes if you create a little space, that arm will punch through on its own. So as you can see in this example, I go ahead and set up the armbar, which then presents an opportunity to hit the double armbar. So I initiate my triangle. He does a good job at using his arm wedge to create a shield in between my legs. I probably won't be able to hit the triangle here. Sometimes you can get lucky and crunch through it, but how much do you want to sacrifice the goods between your legs to make that happen? Now, if I leave my legs coiled nice and tightly around his upper body, it's not going to leave a lot of room for his arm to punch through. So what I want to do simultaneously is two things. I want to get a grip around his wrist on that wedge that's protecting him from the triangle, and I want to pull that towards me. And at the same time, I'm releasing just enough pressure, it's very slight, to allow less resistance when I pull his arm through, because what I don't want is to fight myself. If I keep that locked up nice and tight, my legs around his body, I'm essentially fighting myself trying to pull his arm through. So it may be difficult to see in the video, but I am slightly loosening my grip around his body so that I can use his own forward pressure to pull his arm up towards my chest. Now, as his arm punches forward towards my chest, I'm going to wrap both my legs up and over his shoulders. And as you can see in this example, it's almost like I'm locking up over his rear delts. I want to choke up with my leg grip as high as I can so that I can get my legs over that ledge of his shoulders. This makes it very nice and tight and also very easy for me to hold on to. Now, at the same time, I'm going to get both my hands on his wrists, my right hand on his left wrist and my left hand on his right wrist. I'm then going to make sure that his thumbs are rotated up and away from me, essentially pointing his thumbs in the same direction that my hips are facing. Now, once I'm here, I use my big lat muscles to pull his arms to my chest. I'm not necessarily using my arm muscles because we have to remember, I don't want to gas out. I want to be efficient with my energy. If I'm using my arm muscles, there's a good chance that I'm going to use more energy doing this. If I'm using my bigger, strong lat muscles, it's going to take less energy to be just as strong, if not stronger, when holding or isolating his arms to my chest. As I've isolated his arms effectively with his thumbs pointed away, I'm going to hip in through his elbows. And as you can see here, it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on both of his arms, thus arm barring both of those arms at the same time. This is a really fun one to play with because if you land it, your opponent is going to feel very trapped. So we just went from surviving a triangle to having both of his arms armbarred at the same exact time. Yeah, it's pretty demeaning, pretty brutal, but also very effective. What I really like about the submission is that if you look at high-level grapplers or high-level tournaments, you'll see guys getting out of arm bars and out of triangles, but you very rarely see anyone escape a double arm bar. So it really just speaks to its effectiveness. So if you aren't using this one, I highly recommend you try it. It's definitely worth the effort. This next one is a failed armbar to a choke. Now, the name of the choke is up in the air. I've seen it called 100 different things. If you guys know it by a specific name, drop it in the comments. My favorite that I've seen is called sleep tight, but it's left to debate. So let me know what you guys think. So as you can see in this example, I'm in the armbar position and I'm just having a really difficult time breaking this guy's grip. I'm trying every grip break that I can think of. And let's just say he's got iron hands. He's a physical labor guy, construction worker, bricklayer, grips of steel. They're not breaking. I'm going to weave my south side leg through his arms so that foot is draped over his shoulder. At the same time, I'm going to remove and drop my north side leg off his face next to his head. Now, there is a triangle that you can hit from here when your opponent sits up, but truthfully, you're probably only going to be able to hit this once or twice before people start to catch on. So this option I'm giving you now is a really nice option for you. So the next piece to the puzzle here is that I'm going to take my north side hand and grab the ankle of the foot that's right next to his face. I pull that leg or ankle over his face and then tuck my foot, shoelaces up underneath his head. Now, once my foot is set, I'm very quickly reaching with my arms to establish a gable grip as low on his head as possible, potentially on the other side of his neck. Now, I'm saying that I want you to do this quickly because this is a transitionary phase. This is not something that needs to happen slowly. It needs to happen quickly so that he doesn't sit up and out of this possible submission. Now, once I've collected and obtained that gable grip very low on his head or even on his neck, ideally, I'm going to perform a leg extension with that leg, thus pushing my shin bone into his carotid artery on the left side of his neck, while with my hands connected on the other side, performing a lat row, essentially pulling my hands through the other side of his neck, closing that carotid artery. Now, this will be painful. It will be neck crank-ish, and if you do it right, it will very much be a blood choke. And once you have this set, it doesn't matter if he sits up or rolls, whatever he does, you just roll with him. And I promise you that if you apply enough pressure, and it doesn't take a lot, you're gonna get the submission. My recommendation, as always, for this one, the ones that tend to be a little bit more aggressive, is to be easy on your training partner. Ease into this one, right? Don't full send it because it's pretty brutal. And obviously, if you're in a tournament, yeah, full send it. But as you're learning it, be good to each other, play with it, test the limits so that you can understand the power behind it. But it's a fun one to learn. It's not necessarily super complex. And if he tries to move away from it once it's locked up, there's really not a lot of places for him to go. So if you're not using this one yet, or you haven't seen it, you haven't tried it, throw it into your practice rounds because it's a good one to have. All right, last but not least, a Kamora failure to a bicep slicer. Now, I like this bicep slicer because it is extra mean. Not only do you have the bicep slicer, but you also feel like you're pulling your opponent's shoulder apart, almost like shredding it apart, actually. So be good to each other, right? Until you understand the limits of this one, don't rip it right away, but you're gonna see there's a lot of leverage inside this one. So as you can see in this example, my opponent's laying on his side. I'm in the Kamora position over his head. I've got the Kamora locked up. And again, let's just say this guy's a construction worker, a bricklayer, whatever it may be. We all got one of these in our gym, sometimes two, maybe three, who knows, right? They exist. So once I realize that grip isn't breaking, I'm then going to use my left hand to grab my right wrist, and I'm going to thread the needle, essentially pulling my right hand through the crevice of his forearm and his bicep. Now, once I've done that, once I've pulled that arm through, my right arm is going to grab onto his back, palm flat. And again, this next movement is very much a transitionary phase, so you want to be quick with it. As soon as my hand hits the back, I'm then taking a big, open, wide step with my right foot, essentially stepping over his body, collecting his arm within my leg pit. Now, once I'm here, I'm basically 80% of the way done. It's going to be really hard for him to fight this. But again, don't get overconfident. We want to lock it up completely. So I then obtain my gable grip and I begin to sit backwards over his body. And it almost feels like a little bit of a trust fall, which is fine. But as I fall back, I'm then triangle locking my legs. I'm putting the shoelaces of the foot that stepped over his body into the knee pit of my other leg. Now, once I fall backwards onto my back, I have the triangle locked up and I have my gable grip through his arm so that my right wrist is wedged up into the elbow pit of his arm. I'm then going to pinch my knees together to apply pressure to the wrist that's stuck in that gap. This will cause pain in the elbow and possibly the bicep. But now at the same time, I'm going to utilize my deadlift muscles, my posterior chain, and I'm going to essentially pull his arm away from his body. Now, the bicep slicer section of this is already going to be tight because you're pinching your legs together with your wrist wedged up into his elbow pit. But when you apply the pulling motion, right? Your deadlift muscles, there's a lot of strength there as you pull his arm away from his body. This essentially puts a ton of pressure onto his shoulder joint, and to your opponent, not only is there pain in the elbow, but there's going to be pain in the shoulder. And most people do not want to wait to see what happens, and they're just going to tap right away. Every now and then you're going to get somebody who's a little bit crazy and they want to see, just be careful because you can hurt someone with this one. So it's a good one to practice. It's really easy to hit for people who are difficult to finish Kamoras on. It's essentially, you're just switching your hand positioning and stepping over. Once you lock that up, I haven't really seen anybody be able to fight out of this one yet. So if you're not trying this one, if you haven't practiced it yet, throw it into your training because I found it to be very useful and very easy to do. And those are some 3 very simple ways to chain submissions together. Like I said in the beginning of the video, as you begin to understand this concept, you'll be able to chain 2 submissions into 3 submissions and then 3 submissions into 4 submissions. And you can really get creative. And as you progress through jiu-jitsu, you'll find these pathways that work really, really well. And you almost don't even have to think anymore. It becomes muscle memory and you're just submission hunting through chains. And it becomes something that's really problematic for your opponent to deal with. So it's a cool concept that you should start learning early on. No one expects you to be good at this right away. So be easy on yourself. There will be a lot of failure. There will be a lot of mistakes. It's a part of the process. Just keep training, be okay with not being good at it, and eventually it'll all start making sense and you'll be getting more submissions. And with that, if you guys have your own submissions that you really like to chain together because they work well together, drop those in the comments. I always say I'm not the only teacher here, and so many people can learn from your knowledge. So with that, guys, you know how we like to end them, sometimes backwards, always forwards. I'll see you in the next one.